back, everyone, to Veteran Nation. TC, that was really good being able to get on with the Council of Colonels there. I know you really enjoyed it. But before we get going, I do want to give one announcement. Rand Paul has officially clinched his primary race in Kentucky, so congratulations to him. That just came across the thing while I was sitting here, and I know Lee and Juan will be interested in that.
That's that's libertarian for you.
So how you been this week?
I've had a week. I'll tell you.
Filled
I
up some
got onto the
gas.
floor of the Republican state. I got on the floor of the Republican state convention this weekend. They'll never allow that to happen again.
I saw that. You also had a good interview with the candidate for lieutenant governor, correct?
Yeah, he is now the Republican endorsed candidate for lieutenant governor. Former Minnesota Viking Matt Burke. I had somebody
Nice.
come up to me and like, you were talking to Matt Burke, and I'm like, I know. That was the whole point of having an interview. And they're like, what's that like? I'm like, well, he's a human being. So it was like talking to another human being. But he's famous. And I'm like, hey, what am I? Sliced white bread? So, and then they accuse me of intrinsic racism for mentioning white bread. So,
You know, interviews are fun. I do have an announcement for everyone on the show, for all of our fans out there, and TC.
wait, do I know this? Do I know this yet?
No, this is a new one. I'm surprising you live with this.
See, this is how marriages fall apart. No communication ahead of time.
Oh, you're gonna love this. I wanted to save this because I wanted to get your reaction live. We have
Okay,
a
here we go. Go
very
ahead.
important person, influencer, streamer, whatever, who's agreed to come on the show, Mindy Robinson. And she's a very big conservative commentator and is engaged, I believe is still engaged, I don't think they've been married yet, to Randy Couture.
Now I have to go look her up. I don't, I don't run in those circles,
She
Skipper.
she's one of those that when you see her, you'll be like, oh, I've seen videos and stuff of her. Very lovely
Oh,
girl.
okay.
But
Right.
yes, so she's agreed to come on the show. So I tried to lock on several months ago. I was going to go up to where she lives, and we were going to do a shoot, and I was going to record it and edit it and everything, and that just didn't work out because she was going to be out of the country. So yeah, she's agreed to come back onto the show. So that'll be pretty exciting.
Now I have to do research. Like I research for my own platform, and I got to research for this platform, and we got guests coming on tonight, and
We
I had
do.
to like research for that, and hey, I'm just Skipper, you're overwhelming me here. I like Mindy Robinson.
We're getting
You're
on a
gonna have to
roll and
link
throwing
me.
things at you. That's what we do. And in fact, I'm really excited about today's
It's
guest. Are you okay if I bring him in?
Yeah, I just it's this is like the normal commissioned officer versus enlisted guy thing. The commissioned officer makes a decision, throws it onto the enlisted guy, and the enlisted guy is just supposed to execute. So here I am. I
I
execute.
think he's gonna love this.
Now I know why you want her on. Thanks, Juan.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So she'll be joining us. Not tonight though.
You know what?
Tonight
Just keep her on the screen and we'll talk. That'll.
tonight's guest is not as lovely, uh, but just as interesting. He runs his own podcast called The Nasty Guard. All the fans of the show, I encourage you to check it out. Um, they reached out to us, and I said, yeah, let's absolutely do some collaboration stuff. And they've got a pretty decent sized following. Listened to a couple of their episodes, and I was pretty impressed. They do a lot of what we do. We just kind of talk about stuff. So, um, without further ado, let's bring on Craig from the Nasty Guard. Craig, how you doing?
I am doing well. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? We were having a whole conundrum of technical difficulties there in the beginning. So
I
It
got
looks.
you just
I
fine.
hear you fine.
Okay, good, good.
I mean, you're in a garage, and your sound is better than Skipper's, and he's in a house. So
We're working remote lately. I had to move halfway across the country for some family stuff, so we popped up shop here in Grandma and Grandpa's garage. So this is gonna have to do for now.
there again, your sound is still better than Skipper's. So
It's probably my
we
positioning as
normally
well.
spend the first 5 minutes. We normally spend the first 5 minutes of the show getting Skipper to plug in his microphone. So
There's got to be one of those on every show. Unfortunately, I think that's me on my show. So
And that's
so
yeah.
so tell us a little bit about your show. So like you're obviously you're National Guard.
yeah. So we started the podcast about 9 months ago, and the entire goal for it was to kind of enter into a market that I think's overlooked as far as military media, military podcasting goes. There's a lot of great military podcasts out there, but for the part-time guys, whether it's Army Reserves, Navy Reserves, Marine Corps Reserves, National Guard, there wasn't a lot out there for them. So we wanted to put together a podcast that brought together some of those, guys and gals that were serving part-time, and give them kind of somewhere that was exclusive for that content. So myself and my co-host, who was not able to join us this evening, started the podcast. He is a 13-year veteran of the Guard. I've been in for about 4 years. But yeah, he actually just got out yesterday. He got his official retirement papers, so we were celebrating that last night. But yeah, it's essentially it's a place for the part-time military members to come tell their story, and feel important, regardless of how sexy their job was, to feel important and kind of tell their story.
Excellent.
I
That's
didn't know there was a sexy military job.
This is
Yeah.
true. This is true.
it's whatever one
There's
you're not doing.
some that
TC.
are yeah,
Which is all of them right now. So
No, I listened to a couple of your guys' episodes, and I really like the way you guys you just kind of are veterans just talking about the issues that affect us, which is kind of what me and TC do. Although I like to throw in really bad jokes, and TC likes to cringe. Uh, but
it's
yeah,
not that I like to cringe.
I like to make TC cringe. I won't deny it. But yeah, you guys, you're dealing with PTSD, you're dealing with transition, you're dealing with a lot of things. The most recent one that you guys did, I really liked. You were talking about social media and how that can be like this world that is not real, but it can really affect your mental wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a portion of being in a podcast industry, it pulls you to social media. It's a part of how we get our material out to people. Um, and you can get sucked into it, and it gives a false interpretation of what your life is supposed to look like. It can be a really, really valuable tool to network and meet people like yourself. But it can very quickly become something that's not healthy. And something we really focus on the podcast is touching on mental health. And the thing we always end up falling back to, both me, ADOS, everybody we've worked with, the first step anytime you start getting off the rails is putting your phone down and like getting off of social media as quick as possible. And the amount of improvement you can get just from that is it's unreal. But yeah, it's frustrating because our industry does require us to play the game, and sometimes it's like I I'm good. I got to check out for a while, and I do. I'll go ghost off Instagram and Facebook for a while, and people are sending messages like, "What's going on? Where you at? Get back on here. Give us more podcasts."
Yeah, people love their
You get
content.
messages asking for more podcasts. Normally, my messages are, "Would you please stop podcasting?"
We get those too. Those probably outweigh the please release more podcasts, but it sounds
Yeah.
better the way that
After
I
the
present
after
it.
the stuff I talked about this weekend with my experience at the convention, I'm probably going to get asked a lot more to not podcast. But yeah,
Speaking of,
That's the other
go ahead.
no, go ahead, Craig.
that's the other somewhat ADOS no longer has to worry about this, but part of the kind of the fine line we have to walk, because we do talk about on the podcast, something we prioritize is bringing up issues and things that are going on within the military on a weekly basis. As they come up, we want to talk about them. We have to discuss them in a way that isn't going to ruin apparently just my career now. He's good to go. But it's tough. And one thing that we talked about this last night on the episode we released was I will step away from the military if doing the correct thing and talking about issues is what separates me from the military, then I will step away happily, and I won't carry any resentment about how things ended. Because at the end of the day, I gotta answer to myself, and if I turn the other cheek to maintain my military career when I see things that are being handled incorrectly, uh, I can't. I'm not gonna be able to sleep at night with that. So if the podcast ends up burning that down, then so be it.
No, I
Well,
understand that. Uh,
I can attest to the reality that if you're going to talk about controversial subjects without ever mentioning, I mean, you kind of do it when you title your podcast "Nasty Guard." I just want to throw that out there, but um, I lost basically a 13-year career and never once mentioned my, and Skipper and I've talked about this, never once mentioned my work or what I did, but I lost my career for taking a stand on very important constitutional issues over the last 2 years from not from the private sector, but in the public sector, from a constitutional, uh, constitutionally elected law enforcement officer, a senior law enforcement officer, who didn't like the fact that I was saying the things I was saying, even though I never mentioned my work. So I know what you mean. And I had a decision to make. Do I stop or do I keep going? And the sad thing is that's where we're at right now. That's just where we are. And the military, and it's one of the things that introduced Skipper and I was actually doing a series on, um, for lack of better terminology, the wussification of the military, in that we are um, coddling the weakest individuals in society and begging them to come into the military and lowering our standards. Excuse me. And Skipper and I were kind of running the same circles uh, on Twitter, and I brought him on to my platform to kind of talk about some of that, and now here we sit. So uh, you have your work cut out for you. It's encouraging to hear. I'm going to say young man because Skipper and I are vastly older than you. So Skipper maybe more. It's encouraging to hear you say that. Um, it's discouraging to think that you can talk about issues and have to run the risk of having to say, "Well, I guess I'm going to just have to walk away then."
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a this is something we have learned trying to bring people onto the podcast. The first thing 90% of the folks that want to come on say is, "Hey, I have to stay anonymous."
mhm.
And like my name's attached to the podcast. Like I'm I'm in it. I'm fully invested at this point. Um, but they want to stay anonymous when they come in and talk about things. And we're not even, a lot of these aren't even controversial. They're just worried about, if my chain of command hears that I went on the podcast and talked about the National Guard, who knows what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, to me, it's really disheartening that people can't even talk about possibly the good side of their job without being concerned that there's going to be repercussions for speaking up about things they enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
The people that come on and want to talk about some of the more negative stuff, they've been out, they're retired, and they want to come on and tell their story. So it's frustrating to see it. I feel that, and the silent professional thing, I understand, but being concerned that your career is jeopardized just because you're talking about your career, or you're like, describing some of the stuff we go through within the military, is it's disheartening. It's concerning. And like I said, if that's what cost me it at the end of the day, was speaking up and letting people tell their stories, you know, how interesting or maybe not interesting they may be, if that's the worst thing I did and that's what got me the boot, then I guess that's how she goes.
I'll say this, and I say this as I was a 17-year Marine Corps officer, and what I'll tell you is always stay true to yourself. I left the Marine Corps because I didn't want to hate the Marine Corps. I was an Afghanistan veteran. I do have PTSD from that, but I was, and I've never really talked in depth about this on this show. I've kind of alluded to it. I was a victim of domestic violence, and I had a spouse who worked for a general, and then I had family advocacy on base break my privacy. So a lot of negative things that happened to me, and I was a captain. And my whole thing was I was not silent about it while I was in. I started getting vocal as could be, because my whole point was if they'll do this to an officer, they'll absolutely do it to every single enlisted that they can. And so I started being vocal while I was in, and you know, I didn't want to hate. I could understand that the base that I was on was very corrupt, so I just walked away, and I've remained vocal ever since. But yeah, I can understand why there is silence, but also for anyone, I would say whatever issue that you're dealing with, you do need to find some venue to speak out and tell your story, because if not, these problems are just going to get, worse and worse and worse. And I've equated the base that I was at with what's the fort that just has had all the deaths? Um, Fort Hood.
Fort Hood.
Yeah, and I can see how that situation can play out, because I've seen where, because some people just won't do their due diligence and investigate things that are clearly need to be investigated, and they'll just turn the other cheek because there's a see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil kind of take on it.
Yeah, it's concerning because I feel that sometimes it is like it's either a good old boys club. I think that's the common kind of the common default when these stories come up, is that it was, good old boys covering good old boys and stuff like that. What's even scarier is that I think half the time it's incompetence, and the other half of the time it's people that they just don't want
I
to do
agree.
their job. They look at it and they're like, that's more
Yep.
paperwork than I'm willing to do, which is even scarier, because if it was, people protecting their friends, as wrong as that is, that's some sort of like, there's some human instinct behind that. But when it's just people basically saying like, yeah, I just don't want to file that paperwork, that's way, way worse, because
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to fix that. That's a problem that's not correctable. With changing leadership, that's something you have to start the top all the way down to like implement a change to get people to like, hey, just do your job, please.
Absolutely.
I had muted myself. You can't expect you can't expect people to just do their jobs, because that's kind of a twofold problem. Like, one, that's a lot of the answers that we get from people all the time, and I think this might even be a good time for us to look at bringing up that video that you had sent Juan, from here in Minnesota. You get two responses: just doing my job, and that can be great if you are literally just doing your job. But you get a lot of people that make excuses for, I'm just doing my job, and
Yeah,
without
very true.
any thought behind whether or not just doing your job is actually what you're supposed to be doing. So I'd kind of, Juan, do you have that video ready? Well, I want to. So this took place as a premise. Give me just a second, Juan. I'll lead into it. Um, Juan is the best producer in the history of production, by the way, especially on independent media channels.
Got it dialed up.
I'm gonna pay him twice as much as we pay him now. Okay. See, there, he appreciates it from behind the scenes. So last year, a young man with a violent criminal history named Dante Wright was in the middle of a traffic stop, and he fled. Law enforcement gave pursuit. Veteran female officer. She'd been in the career field for over 20 years. In the process of working to subdue him in his flight and his resisting arrest, instead of drawing her taser, she pulled her sidearm, shot him, and killed him. I do not want to use the phrase accident. I don't think those things are accidental. There's it was a tragic event. Could have been avoided on a lot of levels. The fact of the matter is he didn't deserve to die. Fast forward to, is this the right video? I don't think this is the right.
The shooting, but they're both about a minute long, a minute and a half long.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll watch both. Yeah, Juan, we can watch both then. Did you want to show the other one, Skipper?
It doesn't matter to me.
Shooting
I just wanted
first,
to have
and
the
then
option for you.
Yeah, let's go ahead, Juan. Go ahead and show the shooting, and then we'll lead into his mom, Katie. I don't know, Juan, are we getting audio on this at all? That is Dante.
As I watched the video and listened to the officer's commands, it is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. This appears to me, from what I viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge.
Okay, go ahead and roll into the other one. So what we see in this video is Dante's mother has stopped on the side of a road, a busy roadway here in the Twin Cities area of Minnesota, during a high-risk traffic stop, and she begins to shoot video. Juan, be ready with that.
A police encounter with the mother of Dante Wright is raising questions about traffic safety. Should someone be allowed to stop alongside a busy highway to record police activity? Katie Wright, whose son Dante was fatally shot by a Brooklyn Center police officer during a traffic stop last year, is criticizing a Brooklyn Center officer for briefly detaining her during the incident on Wednesday night. In this body cam footage released by the city, Brooklyn Center police are shown assisting another law enforcement agency on southbound Highway 252 in what they call a high-risk stop related to a homicide investigation. During that traffic stop, Katie Wright pulled over on the northbound side of 252 and began recording the interaction with her phone. An officer crosses the highway and asks Wright for her driver's license, telling her she can't be on the side of the road. Wright claims she was doing her civic duty. She also claims her wrist was injured in the encounter. The City of Brooklyn Center released the video to, quote, promote public safety and dispel widespread rumor or unrest. Meanwhile, a representative from the police union praised the officer for his professional response and restraint during the incident. Find more local news stories.
Juan, can you find the actual isolated video through YouTube on that one? Because I think that really kind of ties in. It was on the CCX Media platform at one time. So he said, and that's always Juan's way of saying, I got it. So I speak Juan sign language, which is different than American Sign Language. And I also now know if I learn curse words in Spanish, I can use them on the platform. So while Juan's looking that up, I wanted to talk about something. So I was listening to your guys' most recent episode, and Skipper can attest to this, because you were talking about how people.
I know where this is heading.
No, you don't. It's gotten. You think I'm going to bring up the cursing, don't you?
That's a problem on our podcast. That is a problem.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're National Guard soldiers and you have a lot to curse about. But no, it was funny because I'm listening to you guys talk about how, like, hey, if you want to talk about your problems, can you share real problems? But nobody ever shares any real life problems, nothing that's solvable. It's always these existential. See, I did listen. It's always these existential things like Joe Biden's ruining my life. And what do you want me to do about that? Can you give me something I can help with? And I immediately, in a very safe and non-distracted driving way, sent Skipper a message going, well, these guys have never read my wall. Or listen to me as I open up my own show or close my own show and like plug my merchandise and plug my Subscribe Star now because TC broke. That's what he is. So I'm like, it was a serious. I think it's a serious topic, and I think you're right. There's a lot of meme material out there of showing Instagram influencers and social media influencers who have this beautiful looking studio set up, but off screen it's like they're hoarders and their laundry's like all over the place and they're in their parents' garage. But there's just I think there is a reality in which I think you guys are incredibly right about there's a shallowness to social media, which I think does lead to, and you were talking about jealousy and greed and seeing other people put this idea of their wonderful life and their perfection out there. And when you've been in the military, I worked in the law enforcement world, and like we know what reality is. Like we see each other on a daily basis, and when somebody is putting on that veneer of fake it till you make it, we normally see through that really fast, and they're like, hey, bro, are you really okay? And I mean, I know in the law enforcement end of my life where I worked on on the corrections end of a sheriff's office, I had after a very severe assault 4 years ago, I had a fellow deputy walk up to me and say, hey, you're not okay. And I'm like, you're just now figuring this out. So I think it's good that we be aware of that, and I think it definitely ties into what Skipper and I have been talking about a lot since we started co-hosting together, which is the mental health awareness. So to your point earlier about just doing my job, Juan, if we have good audio on this, be ready with the pause button. Yeah, well, I know it's Axon body cams. The audio is questionable. So the premise is that they're arresting this guy on a high risk felony stop, and he looks over and he sees Katie Wright shooting video and says to the officers who are handling him, I don't want to be on video. Go ahead, one.
Thank you. I don't want to be on that camera over there. So she's recording over there. I don't want my face on camera. Because I don't know what the fuck's going on. Have a seat. Just gonna make sure no one else in the car.
She's getting a ticket.
No, don't worry about it. Come on.
I need your driver's license. What's that? You're going to give me your driver's license or I'm going to take you to jail for obstructing. You're driving a vehicle. You're going to go to...
Take me to jail. To here, come to here. Come where I'm at. What the fuck?
Okay.
You know who I am, right?
No, I have no idea.
My name is Katie Wright.
Okay.
And you guys killed my son, and I'm going to videotape it. And if you take me to jail, I will sue you. I don't care. Do not ever touch me again. I don't care. Don't touch me again. You can send me a ticket, but don't touch me again. I'm not under no. You don't have that. No, I did not get pulled over. You do not. Legally, you cannot ask me who I am. No, you can't. No, you can't.
Katie Wright, I'll send you a ticket in the mail.
Send me a ticket, but I'm not.
Well, then I'm going to send you another one. I will. I sure will.
So, just doing his job, right? He said, and you know, Skipper, I know you watched my breakdown of this on my show a week ago Saturday.
Hats off to that.
He had
cop,
a chip on his shoulder. What was that, Craig?
Hats off to that police officer. Like the ability to just realize that the situation that he might have walked into with anybody else, you know, there was two paths that he could take on that, and realizing who she was more than the reason that she was there, and identifying like this might be a special circumstance that takes a little bit more tact. Just get in your car and leave, as opposed to, you know, after everything that she has been through, kind of laying it on her and being like, hey, you know, I'm going to take you to jail right now, this, that, and the other, realizing like, hey, I can de-escalate this. She can hop back in her car and get out of here. That I just
see. So here's the cynical guy who he was wrong from the get-go. He was absolutely wrong. He was absolutely wrong from the get-go. Minnesota has a law that says you can't stop on an interstate. It doesn't matter how busy the interstate is, unless it's an emergency for a breakdown or something, you can't stop on the interstate. But this isn't an interstate. This is a highway. Katie, you know, to her discredit, made a bad decision to stop on a very busy thoroughfare. Mm-hmm. I will say that. She shouldn't have stopped. But Minnesota is also a single-party consent state. I don't need permission to shoot video or pictures of anyone, audio, any of that. I don't need any permission. I can record it and publish it and do whatever the heck I want with it. This officer, in the middle of a high-risk felony stop, hears this guy say, I don't want to be on no video, gets him over to the car, says to his partner or the other people, she's getting a ticket before he even gets in the middle of a road. As his buddy says, if you hear it carefully, his buddy says, or his partner says, man, don't even bother. His partner was telling him, don't even go. He walks across, he's yelling at her, I need your driver's license and your registration. At this point, he doesn't even know why she stopped. It's clear that she's shooting video, but he doesn't know why she stopped. He doesn't know if maybe she's broke down and she just happened to see this. He had made up his mind. He was going to crack down on her because he had the authority and the power. And it was only after he escalated a situation that could have gone very, very bad. Now, Katie, she resisted, I'll say that, but he made no effort at all to really de-escalate until, like you said, and I'm not trying to contradict you since you're the guest, I should let you have your say. But this is an example of what happens with those people who oftentimes, well, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. And this is where we struggle today in our society is, was this the right thing? Should he really have handled it that way? because there were a lot of things that he did wrong. She shouldn't have pulled away. She wasn't like actively resisting arrest. But I think she was in shock that he went from give me your license and your registration immediately, like he said it, like yelled it and then said it one more time and she said, no, I don't have to immediately, then you're going to jail.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What
For what?
what I would have said if I were him was, I can't have you park your car here. You need to move it to another place. I believe, I don't know all about Minnesota's laws, but I think that would have been lawful.
Yeah, it would have been a perfect, even if it wasn't a legal issue, you could say, ma'am, this is just not safe.
With her,
That
if
not
I were,
hearing. Go ahead.
oh, if I were in her
No, go
position,
ahead, Craig. You're the
when
guest.
he said, "Oh, I'm going to arrest you," I just would have stopped talking and said, "If that's what you want to do," and just left it at that.
That night, I missed that initial audio because exactly like you said, TC, his partner was already on the right track. Like, it's not worth our time. Like, this is what we're here for. Let's go.
Mhm.
Like, yes, it's probably not safe for her to be on the side of the road, or hey, ma'am, shouting across the the roadway, ma'am, do you need help? No, okay, cool, let's go. Instead of immediately getting to oh well, she's getting a ticket. That's just it's
Yeah,
a
I
it's
mean,
an odd escalation when that's clearly why you're not even there.
Yeah.
it was really too the police union. The police union came out, the lower rank guys have the union, came out and said that that she was actually putting the officers' lives at risk and that they did a phenomenal job. And I'm like, I don't see
That's a
how she.
stretch.
Yeah, well, right. That's like Stretch Armstrong stretch. That's kind of like that kind of, which is probably predates you. But it was just, to me, I was like, this is where we're having this breakdown in communication between kind of your traditional average, pro law enforcement kind of American people, especially in the military. There's always been kind of this mutual respect. And as both a veteran and now a former member of that world, I sit back and I look at everything now through a very focused lens and say something has to change. And I think this ties into what you guys, talked about, and you brought it up, even with meme culture being what it is. Like, you live in an environment now where, like, people, you put out a meme that somebody doesn't like, and they're going to try and figure out where you live. They're going to try and figure out where you
Yep.
work. They're going to try and figure out how to get you
Everything's
destroyed.
about escalating
You know,
nowadays.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow. And yet we look around, and the people who should be making efforts to de-escalate don't. And so I look at issues within the military. I look at issues within law enforcement and everyday world public servants, be they elected or appointed, and I go, no, wait a minute. I served. I swore an oath, and that oath means something to me. And it is very, very important to me to hold other people to that standard. Go ahead, Skipper. I know you can see you're itching to say something.
I want to escalate things.
Well, yeah, you do. Well, and so in the interest of somewhat funniness, I know Juan can find it, but the scene from The Breakfast Club where the teacher and Judd Nelson's character are going at it, and he goes, "Oh, you want another week of detention? Yeah, give me another one." He goes, "Okay, you got it. You want another one? Yeah, I got you. I got you now for the rest of your natural born life." I know Juan can find it because that's what the last part of that reminded me of. Between Katie Wright and that officer was that scene from The Breakfast Club where he goes, "I got you for the rest of your natural born life, son."
While Juan is looking that
The
up,
Juan's hunting it up right now.
while Juan is looking that up, Craig, I want to introduce you to a segment that we do on our show. We have a little trophy that we give out each week.
You'll be the tiebreaker.
Yeah, you can be our tiebreaker. But what I'll do is me and TC will give our nominees. And if you have a nominee, feel free to jump in. But what we do is we give out a Blue Falcon of the Week award for the biggest Blue Falcon that we can find. So for this week, I am nominating
Go ahead, Skipper.
The Food and Drug Administration, because right now we are in a formula shortage, and it's all because the FDA, there's a company out there called Abbott that makes Similac, which is baby formula. They had some recall issues that the company voluntarily did. They shut down the plant, and they haven't restarted the plant because the FDA said, well, this is like starting a new plant, so you have to be in all this compliance, even though it was just running in February. So that is why we have the baby formula shortage. And only now is the FDA, after all what's been happening this week, is finally saying, oh, okay, I guess we can reopen the plant. So they are my nominee for the Blue Falcon of the week. I know TC's got one.
So my nominee for Blue Falcon of the week is United States House of Representatives Republican contingency. They voted to 3 out of 4 Republicans voted to approve a $40 billion aid package to the Ukraine, a mutual aid package, where we continue to send billions and billions of taxpayer dollars to the Ukraine, not just in cash, but also in military weapons. As opposed to non-military weapons in this situation.
Legislation too.
Yes, they did. They helped with that. Thank you very much for watching out for the veterans. But that was great. So I think Skippers is a good one. I'm not going to knock it. I think that I think the passing this off to the FDA, this is my argument. This isn't just the FDA. This is calculated, because we have literally video and photographic evidence of millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of formula sitting at the border in holding facilities to be used for people that they're housing while they're coming across the border illegally. And instead of distributing that the way they should be, they're not. So the FDA is and Similac of the provider is an easy one to blame. So it's their fault. See, they let their plant fall into disarray, and now the FDA is only doing their job. But I still think it's a good, because they're playing along. So I think it's a good nominee. But I really do think in the grand scheme of things, the Republicans, who are supposed to be conservative, should be sitting back and going, we're not going to play this game anymore. We're not putting any more American taxpayer dollars into a foreign country to defend one evil government from another evil government. And quite frankly, the last time that we did this, and at this scale of investment, we ended up embroiled in a world war. So this is a precursor to putting people on the ground in the Ukraine, and I just don't need a buddy like that. I don't need that kind of buddy. So
I like that.
So, Craig, do you have a nominee, or would you like to pick who this week's Blue Falcon will be?
So I'm sitting here pondering a nominee, and I can't give it for a week, but as someone that owns a lot of firearms, but a lot less firearms than my girlfriend knows I own, me and the ATF generally don't get along. They tend to kind of encroach a bit, and make more than anything make my life difficult when I'm just trying to do everything right. They make things tough. So that's my nominee.
So I think we'll have to go to one.
I think that's valid. Well, I do think, however, that leave it up to the federal state to combine all of the fun things into one agency.
Right.
Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. I mean, who else do you want overseeing smoking your cigar while you're sipping on your bourbon and shooting your AR platform and telling you that all of those things are illegal? So
it's
Juan, you'll have to pick guest, Skipper, or me.
Oh, the guest? Nice. So to the
You got the
ATF,
vote.
Congratulations. You are the Blue Falcon of the week.
Eat my shorts.
You just bought yourself another Saturday, mister.
Oh, crushed.
You just bought one more right there.
Well, I'm free the Saturday after that. Beyond that, I'm gonna have to check my calendar.
Good, because it's going to be filled. We'll keep going. You want another one? Say the word. Just say the word. Instead of going to prison, you'll come here. Are you through?
No.
I'm doing society a favor.
So?
That's another one right now. I've got you for the rest of your natural-born life if you don't watch your step. You want another one?
Yes.
You got it. You got another one right there. That's another one, pal.
Cut it out.
You through?
Not even close, bud.
Good. You got one more right there.
You really think I give a shit?
Another. You through?
How many is that?
That's 7, including the one when we first came in. You asked Mr. Byrne here whether Barry Manilow knew that he raided his closet.
Now it's 8. You stay out of it.
Excuse me, sir, it's 7.
Shut up, Pee-wee. Your mind bender.
That was the officer. Go ahead, write me a ticket. I won't pay it. I'll write you another one. And I won't pay that. I'll just write you another one. That was him. That was him.
If he would have stood there longer, we would have gone in circles. That
would've
footage
been-
would have been even better.
It would have.
So,
Do you see the correlation now? Can you see why that came to mind?
I'm drawing it. I'm seeing it.
So before we wrap up, Craig, let's give you a chance to plug your show, plug any social media, anything that you guys are selling. Where can people find you? What can they do?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Nasty Guard. Just about anywhere you listen to podcasts now, we've managed to get into, so you can listen to the show there. Right now, I think we just wrapped it up, but usually once a month we'll do some sort of veteran-oriented charity event. This last year we raised a bunch of money for the Kabul Fallen Fund, the American War Dog Association, stuff like that. So if you go onto our website, we do have our merch. That honestly goes to keeping us motivated to continue to podcast. But on there is a charity tab. And if you click on that, usually what we do is we'll design some sort of merch. We send you that item, and then any of the money that we make from that is going to go directly to that charity. So
Nice.
I don't know that we have anything going right this moment. But we usually, like I said, beginning of the month, we'll kick something off.
Excellent.
Yeah.
TC, you selling cocaine, or I mean coffee? It's coffee.
Yeah. Well, of course, I'm always selling coffee. Merch.
I'm a coffee fiend too. You have my attention.
You will never drink anything but this again. Skipper knows it's good stuff. Yeah, I'm selling coffee. I'm selling merch. Got these really nice slate coasters. I love them. They're a little ASMR for you. I'm going to do this every week now. I also have a Subscribe Star up and running for the Minnesota Black Robe Regiment podcast. So check me out on Subscribe Star. We're going to be putting some exclusive content up there. I have an interview that's going to be coming out for my Subscribe Star base. That's with a guy who's never been in the military in a day in his life. And I was doing my level best to talk him out of just picking up roots and going to the Ukraine to join the Ukrainian military to fight on their side and leaving his family behind. And so it's about a 2.5 hour long conversation. And boy, do we cover a lot of ground in that 2.5 hours. But that'll be up there. And what else was it? Oh, yeah. And I said this on Council of Colonels. This Friday on my show, on my platform at 8 p.m. Central, I am hosting former vice presidential candidate Spike Cohen for the Libertarian Party. He's going to be on my show, and we're going to talk all things libertarian and why libertarian, and whether or not there are spoilers to conservative election politics. I have to bring that up because Colonel Lee said that he wanted to hear about that. But no, it is one of those things that's on my mind as well, and it's actually going to be hopefully the first in a series called the Libertarian Lowdown, where paleo conservative is going to take on libertarian politics and see where we agree and disagree and how we meet in the middle to actually affect change here in the United States. So, and Skipper, I'm still waiting on some merchandise so that I'm not just plugging my merchandise on our show.
Well, I'll get you some, and for everyone watching, down below in the description, I'll have a link to where you can buy Veteran Nation merchandise down there. So click, and we got good hoodies and coffee tumblers, lots of good stuff.
You could get Minnesota Black Robe Regiment Muhlenberg Roast coffee and drink it in your Veteran Nation tumbler.
That's what I do.
While putting your tumbler on the coaster, right? See how that works? So,
level.
I know we got to get going, but I want to do it. Juan doesn't even know. Hey, TC needed money, all right? TC broke. You know how broke he is because he's talking about himself in the third person. Yeah. I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm very thankful for the 22-0 campaign supporters that I had. My friend and the people who actually make the merchandise, the mugs and stuff for my show, Kim and his wife have agreed to match, and they did. I was able to raise $50 on sales on my end. Kim went ahead and said, I'm going to kick in the whole 100. And Juan agreed to match. So we're looking at having $200 to turn over to the guys at 22-0. And I just entered.
So if you can get me, whoever bought the most, get me their info, and I'll get them a hoodie.
Oh, and Juan just reminded me he's going to donate a full 100 to match. So we're looking at 250. And I had just interviewed Attorney General candidate Dennis Smith up here, and he was listening to my spiel while he was off camera, and he donated $50 as well to the cause for turn 22-0. So we're looking at being able to do at least the 300. And
helping veterans, that's what I like to hear.
And that doesn't sound like a lot. But that can mean, like I've said before, it can mean a plane ticket to get a vet who's suffering to a PTSD ranch. It can be groceries for a single vet mom or dad, especially this time frame. And there's nothing like financial hardship to make people feel destitute and feel like they don't have any other options. And that's what really leads to a lot of it for veterans. You go from having 3 hots and a cot every day and knowing that somebody's taking care of your family to now all of a sudden you don't have anything. And so we are making a difference. And so thank you to everybody that did support that. Juan, especially, thank you very, very, very much for matching that. And thank you to all of my supporters who ordered merchandise and coffee from me. So anyway, Juan's got a couple of funnies for us. So.
He's here, I'm telling you, man. Hey, Stomach, what's up, man? Listen, it's just us beer, you know? Looking for a little party, hang out, you know? Now, you know everyone, you know Coors Light, Sam Adams, Bex. Und hello, he's crazy, man. He's nuts, man. You know Heineken, you know? And your stomach's cool with that. All right, come on in, just keep it down, all of you, understand? Beer goes, are you sure? Because there's like 20 of us here, man. Beer goes in, having a good time. Now, a party. People find out about parties. So does other liquor. Next thing you know, a couple scotches show up. How are you, Stomach? You got a great party going on in there. Well, they couldn't throw in some big pipers. What do you say? Stomach, I don't know. Come on, show them that. Just want to blast around. Now you're mixing a crowd up, Stomach lets them in. Now that's when tension starts. People don't know one another, and that creates tension. Scotch is walking around with his boys. Come on, boys, look at there, look at that. Look at it, look at it. Oi! Heineken! Right here, you rot bastard, you. Don't like you. And now there's a lot of tension. You can feel it going on in there, but now everyone's showing up. Jägermeisters and Zambuca, Saki.
Oh, hold the party here tonight. What a big party. Come and help all my friends. Come on.
Now the place is packed. There's a lot of tension. Everything's getting out of control. Your stomach. Hey, come on, guys. I'm not going to tell you again. Keep it down. I've had up to here now. And that's when the crazy people always crash the party. Who always shows up at the end of the night? Tequila. And tequila doesn't show up alone. There's always 8 or 9 of them lined up. Stomach gets all brave. How you doing, tequila? Listen. All right, it's a little late. Can't let you in tonight. I'm sorry. You know, besides, I let you in 3 weeks ago. You ruined the place. You hear me?
Tequila's like, come on, man. We won't start no trouble, man. We just came here to have a good time, man. Right, senor? That's right, senor. We left the worm back in the van. He won't mess with nobody, man.
Like an idiot, your stomach lets in 1 shot of tequila. And then he sneaks in all his friends when no one's looking. Come on, man, ain't nobody looking. Go to the legs. Go get the worm. We're gonna go get the bone. Your stomach. All right, that's it. Everyone, get out. Hey, what are we doing? Not that way, the way he came in. Let's go. Let's go, ham and eggs. Everybody, out. It's always like a stubborn old hot dog. I've been here for 9 years, and this just ain't right.
Very true.
One bad experience with tequila, that's all it takes.
Yep.
I'm just a couple
One
hours
bad,
from the
and then I
border.
had to
got
start.
some good stuff.
I just had to tell him to stop making my Long Islands with tequila. Just add extra scotch.
Well, I think that's going to
There
be
you
it
go.
for tonight's show. Thank you again to Craig from the Nasty
Everybody
Guard.
go check out Nasty Guard. Yeah, check out Nasty Guard. These. Yeah.
I really do
make-
appreciate you guys having me on too.
Oh, no,
Make sure you
absolutely.
listen to them with your headphones on if you're going to be doing it at work.
And definitely come back
It's
and come back on the show again.
absolutely. I appreciate it, you guys.
Oh, definitely. So everyone out there, thank you for joining us. This has been a great show. We'll be back here next week. And as always, thank you for being worth serving.